I would say probably 1. We'll see as people start popping in here. All right, it looks like we are live. If you refresh yours, you should be able to see it. Just make sure your sound is muted as well.
I just refreshed on the Zoom end or on the YouTube end?
No, on YouTube.
YouTube, perfect.
Yep. Do you got it up? Can you see it? Oh,
Just
shoot. I got to
here,
share this
but-
out, too, so people know we're live. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, no worries.
See if anybody starts popping in. Notifications have been very quirky with YouTube lately, too. People, it's been 4 minutes, 5 minutes in before people they get the notification that I'm live,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is really weird. And we live. All right, we got one. King Sports Card, YouTube's in. What's going on? How you doing, man? We're going to do a little sound check here as people get in before we actually kick it off and take off the card collector. What's going on? How you doing? Dan, do you want to just like speak? Don't really get in anything. Just say a couple words so we can test the sound. You guys need to give us input on the sound. So
Yeah, hey guys, how does it sound on my end?
it'll take a second because of the delays with OBS. What's going on, guys? How is the sound? Test his sound. He's going to talk again. Let us know what the sound's like.
How's it sounding? Hey guys. What's up?
Can you guys give us some feedback? I need to know what his sounds like.
You guys hear me fine?
How is the sound, guys? How is Dan's sound? Not mine, Dan's. We never have issues with my sound. Lots of feedback. Sounds like you're in a bit of an echoey room. I wonder. Do you got? Yeah, it's almost like I can hear. Like, are the headphones completely plugged? Like, are they loose at all? It almost sounds like I'm hearing like just a little like something, and it might be from the headphones themselves.
I'll unplug and replug.
Try it, or even try it unplugged once. Just try it unplugged and see what it's like.
How's this?
Still getting some echo.
We're getting some echo.
Maybe can you turn your volume down a little bit? Yeah, it's definitely on your end, but it's just, that's why we have to do this, so we can get it figured out before we go. Okay, talk now.
How does it sound? Any better?
Still a lot of feedback. Yeah, we're trying the mic checks here, guys. Give us just a second. I think we might just have to live with it, guys. Talk again, Dan?
Hey guys, what's up?
Okay. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to... I mean, can you guys hear him? I know there's going to be some echo, but can you guys hear him when he talks? I just want to make sure you guys can hear what he's saying. I don't want to go through a whole... Yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to change anything with that echo. We thought maybe it was a headphone plug. He unplugged the headphones. He's still getting that echo. You guys aren't getting an echo from me, though, right? It was better before, they think. Do you have the headphones in or out?
Just to see?
Yeah.
Alright, I'll try the headphones one more time and see. Does this sound any better, guys?
Sounded good with headphones, in my opinion. Yeah, he's got the headphones in right now. Does that sound better?
Headphones are in.
All right, guys. I think we're just sorry, guys, if there's a little bit of echo. Sometimes these things happen when you're bringing other people on with streams. There's differences with the internets and this and that. We're just gonna have to go with it. So, all right, guys. So, guys, welcome to In Depth with Defness. I got a special guest tonight. He is not only a husband, a father, a musician, a b-baller. He's also a Pop-Tart specialist and an influencer in the hobby. We got our man Dan Noethe, also known as the DMN Takeover. How you doing tonight, brother?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, man. So, are you ready to get in depth?
I'm ready.
All right, so you left me with some good bullet points, some different things to cover. I guess where I really want to take this, or where I want to start off is, where did it all start for Dan? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and that's where I'm currently located as well. So I've been in Minnesota my whole life. Um, Grew up in the south side of Minneapolis, right across from a lake, Lake Hiawatha, by Lake Nokomis. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you brought up, I guess we're gonna kind of jump around because of the way that you bullet pointed with different topics and whatnot. And we're gonna kind of start with the hobby, and then we'll jump around into some of the other things, and then we'll probably come back to the hobby side again. You brought up the point that your great grandmother and your dad were the ones that actually got you into collecting. So at what age was that? When did it really start for you and your love for sports cards? Your first go around?
Yeah. My best guess, I don't remember the exact age, but I think I must have been like, I'm guessing like 8 years old. I remember my great grandmother had bought me for my birthday, either my birthday or Christmas one year. She had bought me a big binder and a bunch of packs of sports cards. I remember there was Score Football, and I remember opening those up and just filling the pages and paging through them over and over and having them split up by teams. That's when my love really came into it. And from there, I just remember my dad grabbing me packs from Target at random times, or coming home with packs for me to open every once in a while, or coming home from a card shop and just having a handful of some new rookies for the Minnesota Timberwolves or something like that. And that's really where it all spawned for me.
So I'm gonna so that was at 8 years old. Now you also told me, you are a musician. You still are a musician. There was actually a time in your life when you were actually a touring musician. When and where did music for Dan, like when did that all start for you? Do you remember?
Well, I've always loved music ever since I was really little, and I used to play around the toy instruments all the time and perform for my family, my parents in front of them and friends. So I kind of had that bug for performing early on, and that kind of spawned into in middle school getting my first guitar. I had taken acoustic guitar lessons for a while, but my hands were not working well with playing with that. So I waited a few years and eventually got into bass guitar, and that's the instrument I've carried on now through my life up until this day.
So have you released? Has there been any songs that you and your band have actually released? You said you were touring, so
Yeah. So the touring really happened once I started playing in a band when I was in high school, like a lot of other people do. And we played some shows around locally. We did travel to random other places, like played in Illinois for a concert one time at random. But the touring really happened with a band that I formed when I was in college. And that one we went very seriously with. We were full time students. We worked full time jobs. We would play shows, and we would play shows at the end of our school day. So we would dip out, drive to whatever city, whatever state we needed to, play the show, try to rush back, do homework till crazy early morning hours, and make it to class on time. And then in the summer, we would tour basically all summer long. So we did release an album in that early on, and then uh, it was going well for us. We got a good amount of attention. It just didn't work out for us to keep going. So we released one record in 2007, and we actually reunited about a year and a half ago to do a different record. We all met in Atlanta and did one for fun. So
oh
that
wow,
was exciting.
cool.
Yeah.
So what age? So what age did it start for you, or when about what year did it start for you? Age, year, whatever you can kind of remember of when you were actually. You talked about when the music came into your life, but when actually was it that you said 8 years ago or so you split back? So when was it when you guys actually started the actual touring, or doing the shows and whatnot?
Yeah, the actual touring went almost completely from the tail end of 2006 to just before 2010.
Okay.
That was when we, yeah.
Okay, okay. You also brought up the fact that, well, and I guess some of us, if we already know Dan, some of us have seen the famous video of him when he slipped Duncan or whatever. Remember that video you posted? What, I don't know, about a year or two ago. But did you
Yeah.
play? So sports wise, you have a love for basketball. We know that. Did you play that like growing up through school? Did you play like competitive ball? What exactly was your love, and how about did you go with the whole basketball playing aspect within your life?
Yeah. Well, I really got a love for basketball. My dad used to play a lot of street basketball. Um, we had a court right across the street from my house, and lots of people would be playing games from morning to evening, and he would be in a lot of those games. And I got to watch him and meet so many of his friends. So I picked up a love of basketball through him,
Uh huh.
and played all through grade school. Played just kind of low key stuff at the YMCA, but once I got to high school age, that's when I really got into it and started working really hard. So played through high school, played intramurally in college. I kind of wanted to try out for the team, but with our touring schedule, it just wasn't going to happen. So actually, the singer in my band and I played for the intramural team,
Okay.
and I still play to this day. Actually, before quarantine happened, I was playing every single Wednesday night in the league with a bunch of guys. So it has
Nice.
not left me. Yeah.
Nice. You could still dunk.
I haven't officially dunked since high school, because I would not qualify that video of me falling whatsoever. Uh, if only I could palm a basketball, I think that would help a lot.
Yeah,
But,
that video was classic, and for those that don't know, maybe after the video, maybe Dan can, he's still got that footage. He can re-release that, or do another tweet with it and bring it back. So
bring it back
we're
out,
gonna
yeah.
touch on a little bit of we're gonna roll with the same basketball as people are starting to get to know you. So is there any basketball players, pro players out there that you kind of look up to, or you're fans of, or your favorite players?
Yeah, well, my two favorite players, honestly, are Kyle Korver and Ben Wallace. I love, when I was in high school, I used to love taking jump shots, and Kyle Korver was someone I really tied to. Nowadays, I really like, my two favorite things are playing defense and rebounding, and Ben Wallace has been a favorite of mine for a long time. I remember when he was drafted by the Bullets, but when he played for the Wizards, even before they really knew what he had,
Yeah.
I was already starting to collect all of his cards. So it was really fun seeing him develop and turn into the player he did over those years with the Pistons and whatnot.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, and I mean, so your love for Wallace and Corver. I mean, obviously the quick shot, the defense. I mean, is that just what kind of drew you in for the love of them? Do you actually, when we talk about those guys as some of your favorite players, and you're a collector and you're in the hobby yourself,
Mm-hmm.
are those guys as being your favorites? Are those two guys we would say that are your PC list, or is that not as much on the card side as it is just the love for the love for those two guys as far as how they play the game?
Yeah, I'm kind of funny with my PC stuff. So Kyle Korver, I put one autograph into my collection, and I was cool with that. And I
Yeah.
haven't kept any other cards of him. But Ben Wallace, I keep anything and everything of. That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Do you got a lot of cool Wallace? Do you got any signed jerseys, basketballs, anything, game shoes, anything like that besides just a ton of awesome Wallace cards, or is it just pretty
Nothing
much
quite
Wallace
that
cards?
big.
All right, cool. Hey,
Yeah,
you
just
always got to ask,
yeah.
man. Always interested in what the man from the DMN Takeover's got in his stash in his PC. So, do you want to talk a little bit too while we're on kind of your PC side of things within the hobby? Do you want to
Mhm.
talk a little bit about your PC, like your two main PCs, the teams that you PC, and why you actually PC them?
Yeah, so like I said, I'm kind of a weird collector. The two biggest PCs for me are the Washington Wizards, but so I don't know what it is. There's something about logos and jerseys and coloring that gets me
Yeah.
sometimes attracted to a team. So I used to love watching the Wizards play and collecting all their stuff. But ever since they went back to that old like bullets red, white, blue, I've lost interest, and I don't know why. So my PC is made up of any cards of them, those old like powder blue and white and gold
Okay.
jerseys, and nothing
Okay.
else.
Okay.
And then my secondary PC is the Baltimore Ravens. They're my all-time favorite team. And as far as that team, I prefer the older logo that they started with, but I collect anything and everything now to this day.
So you're, I mean, so you had to be a pretty big fan of this season. I mean, it would have been nice to see them get all the way to the Super Bowl, obviously, but
Yeah.
there's still the team's got a lot of high hopes. I mean, I think between them and the Chiefs for the next couple of years, they're going to be fighting it out to see who probably represents the AFC. I mean, that would be my honest opinion when it comes to the AFC. But all right, so when we kind of jumping around here, but we talked a little bit about the music. We talked a little about the touring and whatnot. Would you make it a fair assumption to say that probably when you got into the music and into the touring for a while there, especially maybe that's where your attention to the hobby maybe disappeared for a little while? When was it that when did it end? When did it start back up again? And what was it that ultimately started you back into the hobby? Like most of us, we've been in when we were a kid, we leave, we come back. What was it? Was there a specific time? Was there something that just sparked the interest and lit a fire again under the love for the hobby? You want to kind of get into that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did. There was a time for sure when I just stopped, and I don't know. I don't think it was ever really necessarily a thing of me like not thinking it was cool anymore. It was just I got so busy with everything else between playing shows and all
Yeah.
that. But when I had left for college, I knew that I still had my collection at home, and my parents wanted me to go through that and take stuff out. And if they're watching this, I apologize. I still have stuff at their house to this day. But uh, so I started taking stuff out, and I was going through cards, and I was just kind of it was bringing up all sorts of memories of seeing those again and really enjoying that.
Yeah.
And I didn't know yet that there was any kind of active subculture really going on. I definitely didn't know it was happening on Twitter or anything like that or any of the forums. But I wanted to see what was available online to actually open as far as packs and whatnot again. So I just started kind of playing around with that. And that led me into finding box break videos and just watching those a little bit obsessively and seeing what other people were getting.
Uh-huh.
And that turned me on to it was 2011, and I was watching a lot of box breaks of the 2011 Topps Platinum Football, and I loved the way that it looked. And I heard about this guy Cam Newton coming in, and that's what did it for me. I bought a few boxes online, I remember, and opened them, and I just loved the way that it looked. I loved the way that it felt to open the boxes again. Sucked me right back in.
Huh. So people that know you, at least within the Twitter side of things, know you as Dan from DMN Takeover. So we obviously got to bring it up. We obviously got to talk about it. That's got to be a big segment of this in depth for you to really, talk about what you've built within the hobby. Definitely would consider you an influencer in the hobby, maybe a pillar in the hobby, whether you see that or not. But you've really kind of built a brand for yourself, really with doing just the Twitter side sales. But when did that really start for you? And explain to us how you get from the starting point, probably not seeing a lot, maybe wanting to even give up at times, and you can go through all that, to where you are now, to being as successful as you are. When people are waiting for a takeover to happen all the time, like they're waiting for that tweet, they're waiting for you to tag them if they're going to be tagged, they're just waiting to see it, and they're waiting to see what cards they're going to be able to claim in your sale next. So just walk us through it, man, like where it started, how you decided to start doing it, what kind of obstacles and struggles you may have had throughout the whole process. I mean, we get a lot of younger people, or we get people coming back in the hobby that either are just looking for places to buy cards, or maybe they want to try to do something, whether it's breaks, whether it's auctions like I do on YouTube and Jimmy and them and whoever, or something else. But just walk us through it, man. Walk us through kind of what your timeline within doing this takeover and what you've struggled with. What's made it get to where it's gotten to today.
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to that moment when I was going through those old cards from my parents' house. Um, I had been going through and I found a LeBron James rookie card in there that was numbered out of 25, which I wish I had today, but I do not regret selling it. I sold it, and I was like, I mean, I knew that obviously he's a good player. I didn't know what card values were at that time. I just ran it as an auction on eBay. But after I saw what it went for, I started thinking about how I could take a portion of that money and put it into another card I wanted. And at this point, I wasn't even thinking of flipping or doing sales or anything. It was just for my own purposes, like buy other cards and pay off some student loans at the same time.
Yeah.
So that kind of just got me on that opened up the window of like seeing what other values of cards were at and knowing that there was actually value in some of those cards. And I remember I'd already been using Twitter as a musician, and so I decided to look into just if there was anyone even talking about sports cards on there. And I remember just watching from a distance. I didn't really interact too much. I just kind of followed certain hashtags I was finding. I found a few accounts and just watched what they were doing. I really wanted to just observe what was going on and see if it was a community I wanted to jump back into. Because I have this thing where if I don't really enjoy the thing, I don't want it to be a part of what I'm also financially involved in. Like I didn't want to start selling cards just to make money even if that was an option. I wanted to know that I was actually back in the cards again.
Yeah.
So it had actually been a few months that I was just watching, and I remember some of the people I watched early on are the people I interact with to this day. One of them was Ivan from Watch the Breaks. There was also a guy, ATL G-Man fan 414, I think, on Twitter. Just some of those other guys. And I liked that led me to seeing that there were more people in the community. So then I had initially made a Twitter that was just DMN cards and started interacting with that. And I wasn't doing any sales, but once again, I was just seeing what was going on. I was talking cards. I was showing some of the stuff that I had just for fun, seeing what other people had. And I started buying from people. That's when I got the idea of beginning to do some semblance of a sale on that page. And the way that I had set it up initially, and this was probably 2014, 2015, I want to say.
Okay.
There was a website at that time called Collector Revolution, I want to say, that was kind of set up to be some form of eBay in a way, but only for cards. And I don't think they're around anymore. But I had made a bunch of listings on there. And then I was taking the links to those listings and I was posting them on my DMN cards page and telling people that if they saw it on the Twitter page, I would give them a certain percentage off versus if they had just found it on the site.
Smart.
And some people watched it, but it was honestly like that was the beginning form of what the takeover would become without even knowing I had that as an idea yet. But it wasn't. I'd probably done it for like a month and a half, and I was doing it for 2 or 3 hours at a time after I got off work. And I remember the first month and a half of doing it, I don't think there was a night where I did more than $8 or something like that. So like any normal person probably should have been like, this isn't it. Let's not do it this way. Let's not do this.
Right.
But I was committed. I thought that I had a little idea going. I knew that I would have to change it or tweak it. I didn't know how, but I didn't want to stop. And part of it was because I loved doing it and I loved interacting with people. But I had no idea that I would be able to build a community like I have today.
Yeah. So I'm gonna entwine here real quick. So I think it's really interesting to hear you bring up or talk about utilizing another website or another forum like eBay, copying the links, basically pay, just like we do, like I told you, like when we're going live, like anybody does, like anyone that does a YouTube video or something, you go live to spread it or bring more awareness or awareness, post a link, get a link out there, try to bring more people in. And for you to think of that, I mean, even back then when I don't think if I were to think about Twitter in 2014, 2015, I would think that there would not be very many people posting any kind of sales links or any type of real links. I mean, YouTube probably not even. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it seems like as this hobby's growing, you see a lot more of it. And maybe I just wasn't around Twitter much in 2014, 15. That could be it too. But pretty genius thing. Even when you say, "Hey, I was only making $8 for a while most days and spending 3 or 4 hours a night." So tell me, Dan, you're spending 3 to 4 hours a night doing this almost daily, making $4 or $8, let's say, maybe a good day for you in the beginning there.
Yeah.
You said you love to interact with people, so that's why you
Yeah.
continue to do it. But what kept you? Maybe I'll use the word, what kept you hungry? Because we got to have some hunger in us. We got to have some kind of something that motivates us to continue to strive to push forward. What made you get again? So we're here. We're to this point. You're starting to post links. You were utilizing that website. How do we get? How did you keep it going and to get yourself to where you are now, where you're basically a brand? I mean, I would consider DMN Takeover as a brand. I think honestly, where you stand right now, where your presence is, how much of a following you already have, I think you could honestly, if you wanted to, I think you could, you could have a small range of shirts, hats, whatever, maybe even have an own little website where they can buy merch, sell it on eBay or Twitter as well, eBay, wherever. So where does Dan get the takeover from the point of posting links from another website, which was kind of like an eBay daily, only making $8 off doing it, but you love the interaction? How do you get to where you are today?
Well, first of all, I really appreciate all those kind words.
No problem, man. They're deserved.
Secondly, it all kind of came from the model of how I decided to do it. The only reason why I decided to do it on Twitter was because I wanted to feel in the community. I knew that those sites would be useful for actually hosting the card listings, but I didn't want to feel like a cold storefront. I wanted to actually know the people that were buying from me or just talking to me, even if they weren't buying. And it felt a lot like the model that I used when I played in bands, where you're building a fan base from nothing to something. So I knew that even though it was really slow in the beginning, I'd also experienced that same thing in bands where there'd be some nights where you're playing in front of 5 people and some nights where you're playing in front of hundreds or 1,000. So I just had this feeling that if I stayed maybe stubbornly consistent with it, that eventually I'd have something going. And that feeling of building a fan base rather than like a customer list is something that's always been on my heart and mind through it all. So I just wanted to, even if I wasn't selling that night, just all the interactions I had were so valuable to me. And it felt like I was building something special, and I was hoping to constantly be bringing a different feel and aspect to the whole idea of actually selling cards. So that stubborn consistency, I think, is the key ingredient to where we've arrived currently.
That and that word consistency, that is a very strong word. I use being consistent a lot when talking about things and telling people to do things, and I'm glad that you use that word. I'm glad that you brought it up. I knew you would, because I've actually heard you talk in your own little videos you do on Twitter, talking about, to people trying to start out and selling, maybe getting frustrated, whatever. But the other thing that I feel is very interesting in what you hit on or what you talked about was the fact that you didn't want to be just some, I forget what word you exactly used, but some ugly whatever storefront. You actually wanted to know the people that you were interacting with. And I think that's a huge thing. And like I said, we have a lot of people that get on here that watch these, that are looking for maybe some motivation, looking for some inspiration, looking for some advice, and some things you bring up like consistency, wanting to actually know who you're interacting with, not just another customer, not just another supporter, not just another subscriber, whatever follower. We'll talk more Twitter term right now because you're heavy in the Twitter game. Follower, we use that with not just a follower, and I think that's really strong, solid advice. And I guess what I want to ask you is, because I kind of brought up struggles and where, and you've kind of touched on, you just did the consistency thing. But when you got to points, were there ever times when you were building this that you wanted to give up pushing what would ultimately become what it is now, the takeover? Were there ever times that you remember where you were just like, you know what? I don't know if this is really anything I want to do anymore. I don't know if this is really worth it for me anymore. Do you know of any times that you would have come across within this time frame of to where we are now, to where you felt like maybe it's not gonna be where you actually got it to today? Or did you always have that feeling? Were you always that confident?
I feel like I kind of operate with both mindsets almost all the time. So there were definitely times where I thought that this just wasn't going to come together, or moments where something happened, but it didn't stop me from wanting to keep going. It's just maybe in that moment I wasn't as motivated, or there's some nights early on where, not because I was completely frustrated, because I things don't really bother me that much. I'm pretty calm most of the time, and I don't really get heated or upset or anything like that. But there were times where, just for me, my mental state just wasn't there. I wasn't feeling it. I knew that I wasn't interacting the way that I wanted to with people. So there were some sales early on. I remember just cutting short and dipping out and not staying in for the full time that I had planned on doing it. And that wasn't so much frustration at the amount of sales or anything like that, but just paying attention to where my mind was at and things like that, and keeping taking care of myself mentally. Because once again, if I'm doing it, I want to be fully invested, fully present.
Right.
So I don't, yeah. But there's definitely moments where it's been big struggles. I mean, even there's times currently where I'm just like, I wish that something was going a little more smoothly. I wish something was going better.
Right.
Yeah, there's always room for improvement for sure. I don't feel like I've arrived.
Yeah,
Or anything
well,
like
I
that.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah, we can all constantly improve and be better, and that's what we are. That's what we're ultimately working towards, right? I mean,
Hmm.
if we weren't, we would just probably say, "Yeah, we've done enough here. We're good. This is good enough. I'm gonna stop, or I'm gonna stop doing this as much." I've heard you talk in again, one of your Twitter videos, whatever, in the past, and it's we're kind of gonna. I love the word consistency so much. It's a
Yeah.
strong word. It's probably one of the strongest words besides communication, I think, in being successful in pretty much anything you want to attempt to do. And I heard you talk about when you were talking about consistency, and this may sound not so rocket sciencey, like, oh, we already know this, but I think it needs to be heard from people who have gone through it and who have built what they built, like you. And you talked about, like, you know, for you, I guess, let me just ask it this way. For you, what does consistency mean? And for you to get the takeover to where it is, what kind of things do do and that you've had to do to get the takeover to where it is today?
Yeah, well, consistency to me kind of just means showing up, whether it be for yourself or for people, but kind of sticking to the word that you give yourself or others. So, from a business standpoint, if I said, I mean, I'm kind of chronically late. I feel like people are used to seeing me pop on like 15 minutes after I say I will, the but like showing up when you say you're going to show up is that big consistency. And sometimes that's a muscle you can build in yourself just by showing up for yourself, but also showing up for others. So, and if you show up for others, eventually people show up for you too. And I just never wanted to be someone who stopped just short of success around the corner, or a new connection around the corner, or finding more of that community or anything like that. So that's a lot of what I think I define consistency as personally. And I
That's
think
it.
we all kind of know our own truth in that.
That's exactly what I was looking for, because I think that's pretty much what you touched on in one of the videos that I saw, and I was like, man, he thinks like I think, and I love it. And that's the thing for all you guys out there, whether you're trying to build something, Twitter, you're trying to do sales, auctions, whatever, and you're smaller and you're trying to build up. It really is, and it's showing up when you say you're going to. And Dan hits it right on the nose. He says, "Hey, I may show up late, and I may be 15 minutes late, but at the end of the day, he shows up. And he also, I heard him when he was talking about it before in his consistency of getting to where he's gotten to, he also said that, there were days where maybe he wasn't feeling it and he cut it short. But guys, I think what he's basically telling you is that, again, it's that consistent model. It's that even if you're not feeling it, you need to attempt to show up when you say you're going to. And if you have to cut it short, like he had to cut some of these short sometimes because he wasn't feeling it, he cut it short. But at the end of the day, he showed up. People feel like they can rely on him. They feel like he's going to show up. They know he's going to come with his takeover sales. It's going to happen. So awesome. I appreciate you going into that. So Dan, let me ask you this now. We're still on your takeover because this is basically your brand. This is kind of the big part of you within the hobby. Where do you want to take it to now? Like, where do you want the takeover? Where are we heading to with this takeover?
Yeah.
Have you thought about it? Do you know?
I've thought about it. I don't have any clear-cut answers on that. I have some ideas going through my head that I'm not really ready to talk about yet.
Sure.
I don't know how serious I am to go into them, but I want to just keep building the community. I would love if I could just keep doing these sales and getting to know people more and more and increasing them. And I look forward to each day that I get to wake up and do this work. So, and it's my full-time thing now. Like, I decided to dive in. I wanted to. I work best when I have a fire lit under me. So there was nothing like leaving my job and making myself figure it out to do that. But yeah, and it's, so right now it's just kind of like expanding that, growing that. I'm constantly finding different people each day who want different kinds of product and things like that. The tier of cards that I bring into takeovers has increased over the years. I didn't used to have anything high end. Now I sprinkle that in there because there's some people that only want that.
Right.
So just trying to add to that mix, trying to meet more people. Yeah, sometimes I feel like I just kind of put my head down and keep doing the work and then letting it just organically grow on itself. So, but I do have ideas going through my head. I'm trying to always think of new things or what might be around the corner. And then at the same time, not changing anything that doesn't need to be changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing we didn't touch on too, and this may be a kind of a sales kick or pitch, if you will, but are all these cards, when you're doing these sales, are all these just cards that you've gotten, that you went out and bought lots of? Are some people sending you some of the cards? Are you selling them for them? I guess entail what the actual takeover, we all know you're selling cards. We know the takeover is the selling side of things, but where does all the product come from?
Yeah. Lately, it's honestly been a lot of consignment. I feel like I've just kind of built this groundwork for almost a good platform for people to have cards quickly sold on. So a few people started asking me for that, and then told some other people that I offered that, who told some other people. So I have been doing a lot of consignment lately, but it is a lot of me buying lots too off of eBay or when we are allowed to leave our houses, going to card shows and things like that.
Right.
So, because I really enjoy the hunt of finding the cards too, so I try to balance that mix of people sending me cards and me seeking them out at the same time.
Okay. So, guys, if there's anybody out there that has a bunch of cards that maybe they want to get rid of or they want to sell and they don't do their own auctions or they don't want to go through that selling, you can always reach out to Dan. You can hit him up on Twitter or whatever. You could ask me. I could get you an email to you of him. But he could discuss that with you, obviously off stream personally, and what it would entail, what would be involved. But guys, if you're looking to move some stuff, and it doesn't mean like you're wanting to get out of collecting. You maybe have a bunch of patches and auto cards that maybe you don't really care for and you don't really want to take the time to move them. Honestly, hit him up. Ask him about it. So. I guess one thing else I want to talk about too, I was going to kind of say this to the end, and we're getting closer there. So, you put up a bullet point, and I did call you a Pop-Tart specialist in the intro. So, unfrosted Pop-Tarts versus frosted Pop-Tarts. What's the deal there?
Well, first of all, unfrosted strawberry Pop Tarts are the best, so there's that. But my take on it is that the frosting on Pop Tarts isn't even that good. It's kind of just this hard, crispy, tasteless, sugary. If you want frosting on your Pop Tarts, then you make a toaster strudel. That's my take. So that's a.
That's actually a good take, man. Toaster strudels, and it's been a long time since I've had a toaster strudel. You know what? I used to love the cinnamon and brown sugar toaster strudels. Those I thought were some of the best, and you couldn't find them in all the stores. It was hard for you to find toaster strudels a lot of the time. So, all right, a couple other things that I always ask, just about every single guest. Where do you, as long as the economy comes back up and all that, but let's not really talk about what's going on out there. Let's just say things are moving in good motion. Where do you see the hobby in 5 years, 10 years? Do you see it continually growing? What do you feel? What's your take on where you see the hobby going?
No, honestly, I see it continuing to grow. And that's not, I don't think that's just a hopeful take. We saw it get pretty strong, and a lot of new people come into it just before this happened. And honestly, I'm pretty surprised at a lot of the strength of prices and values on cards that are remaining through this quarantine time. So I think people will just be all the more excited once sports do come back. Now, financially, from the standpoint that a lot of people don't have jobs currently and things like that, that could certainly have an effect. But I think sports cards kind of hold a special place in people's lives who like it, because not only is it kind of an escape from reality sometimes, but I'm not going to debate the whole like investment or not investment thing or whatever. But the point is, like, there is money in cards and there's an enjoyment, and I think if you can balance both, that's great. And I think people are finding that. And even when there are people that come in that are solely investors in it or trying to flip cards and aren't necessarily community collectors, let's say, I think that still brings value to the table. I mean, anyone coming in. So I do see it getting stronger, even just from the standpoint of around Minneapolis. I go to a lot of business networking events.
Yeah.
And there are so many people that are getting interested in it again, and like actually getting interested in it. Like, they're interested in the fact that maybe they can make some money.
Yeah.
But also just like, I loved it as a kid. Like, I see myself enjoying doing it again as an adult.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah. And when we get big players coming in, when we get those people like Zion and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it gets people's grandmas excited about it.
Right? Grandma, bring old Larry Johnson back. Oh, I like it. The thing you hit on, though, too, and I feel, in my opinion, it's the same as like what you said. Some may want to come in and feel like, well, yeah, they can make some money on it. But I think at the end of the day, like, I think there's probably people out there, whenever they see this, whether they're watching it now and you've said that and we're talking about it now, or somebody watches this later, I think even the people that maybe came back in or got into it and thought, okay, I can make some money, they realized the actual fun in it. And they actually realize, especially if they are like a sports nut or there's somebody that really follows sports, whether they watch it, they play daily fantasy, whatever it might be. And then they start seeing some of these cards, and they start pulling some of these autos. There it is. Here it goes. The unfrosted strawberry Pop-Tart, the best one out there. Don't forget that. Dan told you so. You heard it here on In Depth. He's going to enjoy the whole thing. But I honestly feel like, they have that mindset maybe, but maybe they get turned around to like, well, hey, yeah, I'm going to try to make some money. But ultimately, I'm going after certain guys. Okay, I pull this crazy auto or this RPA card or this insane patch card. Wow, boom, So I think it's an interesting take. I think it's actually interesting that you say that, because I honestly feel like that's hitting it right on the head. Do you want to talk a little bit about, obviously I ran into you in the National. I see you at card shows around here because you're in Minnesota as well. You're not far from me. But do you want to talk a little bit about kind of your experience for people who have never been to a National? I always like to bring it up to anybody who has that's on here, maybe to give them some advice or hey, this is something you should really do. Do you want to just kind of touch on a little bit your experience or experiences with the National?
Yeah, absolutely. The National was unreal. I loved it so much. It was, I mean, it's not only a great place to just go buy cards. From my standpoint, it was um, just heaven for finding cards to flip. But I was able to find cards that I wanted for my personal collection. But the most important thing to me was it was so great meeting all the people that I had known on Twitter and online for so long to put faces behind that.
Yeah.
Because I just love community. I just eat it up. And that probably goes back to the musician in me. But I just loved, like, I'd already met you
Yep.
personally before at a local card show,
Yep.
but there are so many other people I met. Um, I met Jimmy there for the first time. I met Balsley there. So like it was just really Ivan. Watched the breaks. Just so many great people. So I just ate up the whole interacting with people, and it can get kind of overwhelming walking around. There's so many
Oh
card
yeah.
tables and things like
Definitely.
that, but
Uh-huh.
it's just so much fun to just drink that in and just be a part of
Yep.
that experience. And because we get so much of what we do, whether even if we're not doing a YouTube show on cards, or if we're not selling on Twitter, it's still so online based for buying, unless,
Right.
except for like going to brick and mortar card shops, obviously. But that's just like the greatest experience of being in that community and that networking with people and getting to know people and going to events and experiencing all that.
Okay, cool. Is there anything else, Dan, you want to take this time to touch on something that we didn't? I think I hit all the little bullet points and everything. Oh, you know what? One thing you didn't bring up, and I guess I didn't bring it into it, but
Mhm.
when you got back in, when you rediscovered your passion for the cards, somebody had sent you something. You put this in your
Oh
bullet
yeah,
points. You want to kind of touch on that? Which I think is actually really cool that they even did that, just finding out you came back into the hobby.
yeah. So back when I was looking at the cards, it was actually just before I had uh, when I had bought my first box, which is the 2011 Platinum coming back in. It was just before that, though. I had just had an interaction with Panini. I was on Twitter, just that's when I was watching stuff, and I can't remember what post I interacted with. It wasn't any kind of giveaway, it wasn't any kind of contest, anything like that. It was just, I asked a simple question of like, what was currently out there. I didn't know if Tops was going in things. I didn't know if Panini was going in things. I didn't know
Yeah.
if Upper Deck was. So I just genuinely asked that question. And Panini direct messaged me and was like, "Well, can we show you what we have going on?" And um, they sent me a Fran Tarkenton autographed card that I have still. They sent me a box of 2011 Prestige, and they sent me a note basically just welcoming me back to the hobby. And that was one of the coolest experiences. Um, yeah, just from a simple question.
So they
Like I
basically
didn't.
racked you. They racked you, man. Yeah, the actual
Yeah,
Panini racked you. That's
yeah.
awesome.
So that was really neat.
That's awesome. Was there anything else you want to touch on, Dan? Anything that I missed or any other advice you want to give to the viewers out here? I mean, again, you guys may not know, if you don't know Dan already, like I've already kind of talked about it, but he's pretty much built a brand for himself in selling, flipping cards, and just being an influencer in the hobby. So is there any other advice? We've touched on a lot of good stuff. You brought up a lot of good things, the consistency, getting to know people, they're not customers, they're not followers, they're actual,
Yeah.
really getting relationship wise, like actual good knowing the people, friendship style, relationships. But is there anything else, any other advice you'd want to share with the viewers?
I'm just all about that consistency and getting to know people. I think that's the biggest part. And it's not any kind of bait and switch. It's not getting to know someone so that they'll come your way and buy a card from you or anything like that. It's like genuinely being invested in the person, getting to know them, becoming their friend, just because you want to be friends with people in the community. Um, and I believe that when you do that, people warm up to you. And once again, it's not about getting people to warm up to you just so that they will purchase from you. It's just that human interaction. And I just want to see people, if they are really passionate about this stuff, I want to see them just keep driving at it and keep going. Don't stop short, because that moment could just be right around the corner. And I want to say too, if anyone ever has any questions or like wants to pick my brain or anything specific, I don't always know what to say just off the bat, but if you have specific questions, I'm always willing to answer them. You can shoot me a direct message. And I also wanted to offer too, in this time uh, with the community and stuff, when we are all quarantined and away from each other, I know that it can get really weird and we can feel lonely and we feel distant from each other. And social media is a great way to stay connected in that the best way we can. So my inboxes are open if you ever need someone to talk to. Honestly, my inbox fills up really quickly on the takeover page, but I can tweet out my personal Instagram page and personal Twitter. And if you ever just need a friend to talk to, or just need to spill your feelings or vent or anything like that, I want to be one of those people you can come to, so you just don't feel like you're alone, because no one needs to feel alone. And community is just such a healing thing.
You know, it's awesome, man. It's words that you say, and it's beliefs and things that I feel too. Because I remember, you know, one of my big goals was to be consistent, to stream every day on YouTube, and just try to stay positive, consistency, positivity. And then all this stuff hit, and I was like, man, like people really need to connect. And I was reaching out to people like other YouTubers. Guys, this is like the time we really need to be there for everybody. We need to continue and let people know. I think it's an awesome message, Dan. I think that's what people need to hear. That's what people need to know. And guys, again, don't feel embarrassed, don't feel shy, don't feel whatever to reach out. If you want to reach out to Dan, you know, me, anybody in the community, but it's awesome for Dan to pretty much open his doors for all you guys, for anybody. And again, it just shows the type of person Dan is, and that's how he's been able to get where he's got with his brand, I'm going to call it. I mean, really, the DMN Takeover is a brand. I mean, that's really what it is. One other thing I wanted to ask you before I give you the last final words. You know, you talk about building relationships. You talk about, you know, getting to know people. I know that I've met a lot of, I would call them very, very close friends now through this hobby and through doing this. Have you had that? I know you've had a good interaction, good friendships, build that, but have you had any like almost like best friendy type relationships or anything that you've built like from this hobby that you can think of?
You know, I feel like, I mean, there are so many of you that are such great friends.
Yeah, no.
Unfortunately, with so many of you being people I interact with through online, I don't get to see you as much as I want to. And with the uncertainty of the National this year, I'm sure. But I just appreciate all of you guys. I haven't had an experience where I've had like just a ridiculous like best friendship come out of this. But I made so many good friends and bonds and just awesome people through it, for sure. Friends that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't jumped back in or found this community on Twitter, for sure. I mean, there's people who I text with like outside of it. It's not just on Twitter kind of thing. So I have that for sure. Yeah, a lot of awesome friends.
Awesome. All right, Dan. Well, as always, it's been a pleasure to have you on here. I think everybody out there has enjoyed this. People that watch this later for whatever reason because they couldn't join us now, I'm sure all going to enjoy it. A lot of great information. I mean, again, guys, I don't have to say much more. I've said a lot, and I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record, but it's things that are real. I mean, this is a guy that's really done some awesome things and continues to do awesome things for the hobby and just in general. So I guess I'm going to close it out, and I'm going to say this is your time. Any last words before we say our goodbyes to the viewers?
Honestly, nothing other than that. I just appreciate all you guys, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, no, it's been a pleasure, man. And guys, again, if you guys need anything, you can reach out to him. If you guys have cards you want to sell, honestly, contact him. He'll be able to move the stuff for you. He's got an audience. He's got a lot of people and a lot of following. He'd be able to sell, I'm sure, no problem. So if you feel like you're in a rut or you feel stuck or something, reach out to him. So I want to thank you, and I appreciate you for coming on here, Dan, and kind of sharing your story and how you got to where you got to, and kind of just some background about yourself, so people I think feel like they know you a little better if they didn't already know you. We got the Pop-Tart thing settled, I believe. That's taken care of as well. So guys, we're gonna close it out. I just want to say thanks again, Dan. Don't forget, it's the DMN Takeover. It is a brand. It is a thing. Check him out. Make sure you're checking his sales feeds. Make sure you're following him. The link's in the description. And good night, guys. Appreciate it. Later.